Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Well-Appointed Mystic. My name is Anna, and today I wanted to dive into some of the tarot-related books that I have been reading, and then I have a couple that are sort of tarot adjacent. And I just thought I would go through them. Some of these books are books that will be real familiar to people, and some will maybe be less common. I don't know. I'm going to give this a whirl. Surprisingly, I'm looking at this stack of books and I realized that I acquired every single book from Llewellyn. So thanks, Llewellyn. I love your sales. But I'm going to start with the first book in the pile. I'm just going to go from top to bottom. These are not in any specific order. They were just how I piled them up. Apologies about the sticker on the front of this book. I think there was like I don't know, I think it got scratched or something and it really bothered me. So I put a sticker over it so that I wouldn't see that the book was damaged. This is the Book of Mermaid Magic by Lisa Robertson. I have been using this book in combination with the Mermaid Tarot. And this was actually something that I started this time last year in July. I did like sort of a Mermaid Tarot study month where I worked with the Mermaid Tarot every day and drew a card, and then simultaneously kind of worked through several chapters of this book. If you are not familiar with the Mermaid Tarot, Lisa also worked on this deck. I cannot remember the artist who worked on this. Let me see if I can find that. It's Julie Dillon is the artist on the Mermaid Tarot. But this is a deck that really surprised me in its, hey, cut that out. I have a cat who's trying to eat the Post-it notes off my books. Let's try this again. So this is the Mermaid Tarot. I've been working on it with the Mermaid Magic book, which is more about kind of working with mermaid energy. I got really excited about this book last year. I started reading it while I was traveling because it was kind of a nice thing to read and kind of work through when I'm sitting at the airport and stuff like that, because I can kind of just take notes and get some ideas. But the book is basically divided up into sort of mermaid archetypes. And then the archetypes then align with moon phases and I'm trying to think what else auras, so like, or chakras. So for each of the sort of mermaid category, there is a chakra alignment and a moon phase, and then as you go through the chapters, there's like a specific type of water that is associated with each mermaid magic kind of thing. So for example, the first, like, there's the ocean priestess that aligns with, I want to say, like the waxing crescent and the crown chakra, and then the place of power is a bay. So, and then it kind of works through each of the archetypes that way. So you have like water goddess, you have, let me see if I'm going to go to the, here we go. We have the water goddess, the ocean priestess, the sea witch, the siren, the common mermaid, the shapeshifter, the nymph, and the sprite. And each of those, and then there's magical workings that go with each one of them. And I just, this book has been really delightful. I'm really only about halfway through it. My plan is for July for me to work through the rest of this book. And I'm glad that I didn't force myself to either rush through or feel like I failed last year by not finishing the book. And it's just been great. And combining it with the Mermaid Tarot has been really helpful because there are actually some tarot related activities or references specifically to a tarot card in the Book of Mermaid Magic. So you can kind of work the two of them together. But it was just really nice to sort of have this mermaid energy. I live in a very landlocked place. I live in the center of the United States. We're not near any kind of body of water, but I am very inspired by the ocean, as so many people are, and water and the beach and the sea and like all these kinds of things. So this is my way, at midsummer to sort of embrace the ocean and the sea, even if I can't get anywhere near it. So, but yeah, so that's the first book, is the Book of Mermaid Magic. And it's a book that I have basically been reading for about a year. And I continue to go back to it and refer to it. And I've been doing Dawn Michelle's sort of tarot study project, which this month is The Little Mermaid. So I've actually been working with the Mermaid Tarot this month as well. So I will get 2 months with Mermaid Tarot this year for both of these projects. So the next book in my pile is Jamie Elford's Tarot-Inspired Life, Use Cards to Enhance Your Life. And it very much focuses on, one, doing like deck study and kind of using journaling as a way to deepen your relationship and study with tarot. But also there are sort of activities and things that you can do to sort of get to know your deck better. So there's the classic journaling with your tarot, like your daily draw, doing, taking your deck and doing a like and dislike pile, and then walking through, why do you like certain cards, why don't you? And so some of the exercises are things that I have done before or have seen in other books, but I really like Jamie's writing style. There's some interesting just other exercises included in the book. And as you work your way towards the back, there are some spread ideas, which are always fun. It's like, magical books and things that have recipes and spells that you can use. And they may not necessarily always be the thing that you are going to use or are outlined in a way that'll be useful to you, but it's nice to have them as like sort of jumping off points. So like maybe a creative advice spread isn't quite what you need, but you need a writing advice spread or, something more specific. So sometimes I find them just helpful to have. Let's see, I've marked a bunch of different pages. She gets into like the last section is very much doing rituals and kind of involving more sort of a magical practice in with your tarot. Sort of this wheel of the year, like spells to honor or spreads to honor the lunar cycle, forecast spreads, like a new moon card spread. And it's just nice for me, I think, to have and know that I have a book that has these types of spread ideas in here, so that I'm not spending 45 minutes on the internet looking for one should I want to do a full moon spread, that kind of thing. So I am at page 233 of, about 280 pages. So I don't have much left in this book. I've been reading it over the last couple of months, and just sort of flipping through and doing some of the exercises and clearly, marking them with a ridiculous number of little tabbies. So that is Tarot Inspired Life by Jamie Elford. The next book in my pile is The Scent of Lemon and Rosemary, which is Rachel Henderson. It's Working Domestic Magic with Hestia. And this is also a book I have been using for over a year. I read through the entirety of the book last year because I do a goddess card pull every month to work with a goddess energy, advice from a goddess, like those types of things. And last year, like the first 3 months, no matter how many times I reshuffled the goddess deck, Hestia came up. So I just accepted that last year my guiding goddess was Hestia. Like, I get it. You have told me that I need to be working with you, and that was it. And then I found out about Rachel's book, I think from last year's Llewellyn Con. And so I went ahead and bought the book because I was like, what are the odds that there would be a book about working with Hestia available? And so it's a very much I am very much a house cat. I am very much a homebody. So the idea of working domestic magic with Hestia like really felt right. And last year I started working from home. So like I really never leave my house. So it all seemed to align. And this book is another one that I enjoy because it has a combination of rituals and things, and they're all like they're divided up into chapters based on the locale in your house. Obviously, if you live in a studio apartment, your living room is your bedroom, that kind of thing. And she talks about that at the beginning of the book, but it's the idea of sort of like, you know, your zone in your house. Like maybe you don't have a living room per se or whatever, but you have that sort of like, this is where my chair and my lamp is, so this is my living area versus my bed, which is my bedroom, you know, that kind of thing. So if this is a book that you're interested in, don't let the chapters dissuade you. It's really more about the energy associated with a particular part. Like the very first, I think one of the very first chapters is about the entryway, and talking about like, you know, creating magical protection and things like that. The threshold is what it's called. You know, this sort of like magical protections for your doorway, your entryway, whether it's an apartment or house. You know, do you hang something from the front door? Do you set a small table near your front entrance that you might put herbs or plants or something that feels protective or welcoming, or, you know, creates a good vibe kind of thing. So I mean, this is very much a house magic, home magic kind of book, cottage witch, whatever you want to call it, which I'm realizing pretty much sums me up. There are some different kinds of recipes for everything from like, this is a section that has tea and herbal recipes. There's some, what I fell in love with this book was a recipe for clear the room spray, which is, I can't really use incense, like the burning smoke kind of thing. I have asthma and that really bothers me, but I can use essential oil sprays because they don't bother my lungs the same way. So it's hard to find books that have any kind of recipes or whatever for making your own home sprays. So this was a delight, and I have then since built other sprays that I use, but we joke that I make a big bottle of clear the room spray because my husband actually likes the way it smells. So he uses it if he has to, you know, spritz the facilities after a particular incident, you know, those types of things. Like if the house is smelly, he will just run around and clear the room. And then I have another one that has been treated a little bit more sacredly and is used for when I want to sort of like clear the room from a spiritual level kind of thing. But yeah, I make a big bottle for him so that he can use it as basically an air freshener. And I have no problem with it because it's like, I know the ingredients that are in there. It's not anything that bothers me. I use real essential oils. But yeah, and he laughs because now he actually refers to it as, where's the clear the room spray? So this is just a delightful book. And the other thing, I had heard an interview, I think, with Rachel on a podcast, and I don't remember which podcast now. But she talked specifically about this last chapter in the book, about creating your own wheel of the year. And this was super inspirational to me because it was very much sort of that journal writing kind of idea. And her take on this is that like creating your own sacred holidays, or you know, sort of marking time through holidays. And she talks about, like, with her family, they celebrate, you know, solstice and things like that, but then they also celebrate ice cream for breakfast day in February, as well as birthdays and Halloween and things like that. So it's like, she talks about how, like, by making your own calendar, like, there may be holidays that you're supposed to celebrate, but you don't, or are often on commercially available calendars, but are not relevant or important to you for whatever reason. And this gives you an opportunity to sort of create your own calendar, set your own time frame. And, like, you know, we talk about the wheel of the year, and, you know, in North America, it's often like, December through March is winter, where, if you live in Michigan, winter really starts in October and, goes till May. So like, we're, being able to sort of rewrite those, like if you wanted to make your own literal wheel of the year and change where fall, spring, summer, and winter hit, like, fall might only be a month, or 3 weeks. Like, I live in the Midwest and we don't really have a spring. We go from it being cold to being muggy and hot. And, we're lucky if we get a couple of weeks, not a couple of months, that really feel like spring, so to speak, where it's mild enough to go outside without a parka, but not so hot that you don't want to be outside anymore, So it's like my wheel of the year would definitely adjust for the 1 month potentially that we actually have spring. So it just was this was one of my favorite chapters. And just the idea of like making your own wheel of the year, decorating it, making it feel special. It's just a delightful book. So, while I am not specifically working just with Hestia in 2025, I am rereading this book because I'm just a homebody and spending more time with the idea of like sort of home hearth magic is important to me. So I have 3 left. So we've gone through 3. I apologize if this is running long. Okay, so this one is brand new. It's another Lisa Robertson. I picked this up this year at Llewellyn Kahn's sale. And this is Pathworking the Tarot, Spiritual Guidance and Practical Advice from the Cards. So this is very much kind of trying to dig deeper into the tarot. I literally just got it. I have read like the introduction and trying to sort of wrap my head around her interpretation of pathworking. So I think this will be a good way for me to work. She breaks it into 3 kinds of path working: intentional, intuitive, and wandering. And then she's basically going through each of the cards. She goes through each of the cards in the major arcana and each of these techniques for path working. Intentional is basically like, should I have drawn like specifically pulled the Hangman card to do an intentional path work with the Hangman, versus intuitive, where I pick up my deck of cards and I pull the Hanged Man, and what does that mean? And then wandering is sort of a little bit of both, I guess. So I will delve into it a little more deeply. I think when you get into the minor arcana with this book and the quartz, they're just sort of grouped together. So like all the pages are grouped together. And then let me check. Here we go. The minor arcana. And then I think each of like all the aces are grouped together into groups. So you could theoretically like pull all the 2s out and talk like intentionally and talk through like, what do that duality mean for me in these, earth, air, fire, water kind of things. So I think that this will be a good book. I want to spend more time diving more deeply into the tarot. I have been reworking, I guess, in the tarot. Now I'm in my 4th year, and I had been focusing more on books that were about just sort of learning the tarot. Now I feel like I'm ready to do more like deeper spiritual work with the tarot. So I think Pathworking the Tarot will be a really good option. Flip side, I picked up the Tarot Original 1909 book. I decided I didn't need, this is a Sasha Graham, I did not need the deck, since it is essentially a classic Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And there is an option to purchase the kit where you get this book and the 1909 deck. You can just buy the deck. I didn't need the deck because I already have several editions of the Rider-Waite-Smith. And this really applies to potentially any deck that is Rider-Waite-Smith inspired as well. And this is a result of working with the Dark Side of Tarot deck this month that has a guidebook that was written by Sasha Graham. And this is your just classic little white book that comes with the Lo Scarabeo deck. Apparently I can get a larger edition with a larger book, but I decided to go ahead and just get the Tarot Original 1909 book right now, and then rather than buy another copy of this deck with a larger book, that seemed excessive. The book was like $15 or $18, where if I bought the deck with the Dark Side of Tarot full-sized guidebook, it was going to be like $30. So you see where I'm coming from, right? But anyway, I fell in love with her little white book included in this deck. So I really wanted to see Sasha Graham's interpretations and sort of descriptions of the Rider-Waite-Smith. And I have only gotten into the major arcana in here, but I am smitten 100%. She like the first example, and this was something, let me see if I can find it. On the Fool card, I'm going to just call this out. She noted that there are 10 circles on the Fool's shirt that represents the 10 Sephiroth in the Kabbalistic Tarot, the Tree of Life. But what she also notes is that inside of each of these circles is basically an 8-spoke wheel, which in the Golden Dawn practice is the symbol for spirit, human spirit. It's something I have never seen in any other book or any other reference material. So it is one of those moments where you're just like, oh, I've learned something new and exciting. And it's not to say that that will be included in every other deck, but just knowing that in the process of making this deck originally, that was a consideration, that they made sure that these little symbols were included, and each one is a representation for spirit. So it makes me think even further that like the Fool is that sort of the spirit taking that leap, you know? So really excited about reading through this and pulling more information from this. And it's really well written, and I do think that this has now become one of those books that I would recommend to someone who is just getting into tarot and wants a guidebook that has those classic Rider-Waite-Smith meanings. She also had a note in here about how to go about reading reversals, and gives 5 different methods, which I think is great. So it really, I think for me, just reading this sort of lifts that there's only one correct way to read reversals, or you have to do it a certain way, or you have to use the reverse keyword, or, you know, whatever, which like regular tarot interpretations can vary widely from deck to deck. So I like that she offers this option of you can choose how you want to read reversals. I don't normally read reversals, but every now and again, you know, you pull a card and it's upside down. And I do take that as a sign that I need to pay more attention to it, or that there's blocked energy there. And I often will do the turn the card around to correct the energy kind of thing, or like to open that energy. But it's just like, so far, like, it's not, I don't think it's going to be like, the little details are great, but it really just goes one by one through each card, and oftentimes has like half a page of information, but it does has keywords and reversals. So I think this is going to become a really good reference book, one that I will refer to a lot, and will have like maybe bump another guidebook out because I refer to this more frequently. So we will see. And so the last book that I have is one that I picked up last year and had not gotten around to reading. And my intention is to really dive into this book when I finish the Tarot Inspired Life. This is Tarot Every Which Way, Unlock the Power of the Cards for Spellcraft and Magic by Lilith Dorsey. And this one was one that just inspired. I love the idea of using tarot for spell work and magic, sort of combining my personal traditions more closely. One of the things that was a stumbling block for me when I first picked this book up and started flipping through it to sort of decide if I was going to start reading this one or read something else, is that there are both for each card. So it kind of goes through each card, like starting with chapter 2, I think it goes through all of the majors. I don't know if it does any minors. Yeah, it looks like it's probably just the majors. But it has some really cool things like crystal correspondences and herbal correspondences for each card, and other types of correspondences, like, you know, the Fool corresponds with a dog, and the musical note E. So if you are musical, this might be really cool. But what I was getting at is my stumbling block was that for each of the cards, it also has a culinary recipe, and so oftentimes they are things I cannot or do not eat. So I was a little disappointed that a good chunk of this book is going to be given over to food related recipes that are not necessarily something that I would use. I love the like herbal recipes, the oils, the sprays, the, you know, those types of things. But I was a little disappointed about the food recipes. And again, it is just me. And I'm sure I could make modifications for some of these recipes to make them work for my dietary requirements. But it was just I was just a little bummed. I would have liked more spells and magical kind of things. Like this has a high priestess oil, and less food related. You know, I don't mind the occasional tea kind of thing. So anyway, so this is my next dig into, oh look, an Empress Grigri bag. So that'll be kind of interesting. So yeah, this has spells and recipes and things like that for each of the tarot cards. I know that there's a tarot cookbook out there somewhere that for each card there is an actual recipe or an actual meal kind of a thing. This is not it. But anyway, so these are the books that I'm currently reading. I would be curious to hear, like, what are you guys reading? What kind of books attract you? Do you read books that are not specifically like the guidebook that came with your tarot deck? And, you know, like I have worked through some of these where I pick a specific deck and I use it to work through, you know, like the Mermaid Magic. I just use the Mermaid Tarot with it. But yeah, so let me know in the comments what your favorite tarot or tarot and magic related books are. I'm a book junkie, and I love to read about other people's ways of working with the tarot. So thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.